Welcome back. So President Trump waited more than a day to offer a muted response, muted at best, response to the Russian firing on and seizing of 3 Ukrainian ships and 24 Ukrainian sailors. The president again showing his reluctance to hold Russia responsible as other world leaders condemn Russia's behavior. Meanwhile, Ukraine claims that there were counterintelligence officers on those ships, with one officer seriously injured. Take a look at this picture because it is quite telling. It is an image of one of the holes, the damage blown right in that Ukrainian artillery boat after the attack. A giant hole, from what Ukrainian authorities say, was indeed Russian artillery.
This as Ukrainian lawmakers have voted to introduce martial law in some areas bordering Russia or bordering where Russian troops are now stationed. To be clear, martial law in Ukraine deals with stepping up military activities and preparations, does not restrict basic civil liberties of its citizens. I spoke to the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg about what NATO is willing to do to prevent further escalation. Now, I know that you personally as well has called for Russia to release the personnel, to release the ships. But what is NATO prepared to do? What immediate measures is NATO prepared to take to back up that demand?
We will provide both strong political but also strong practical support to Ukraine, help to modernize their armed forces, command and control, cyber, but also help them with strengthening their naval capacities. I also know that many NATO allies provide direct bilateral support. So NATO and NATO allies provide strong support and will continue to do so to Ukraine. Look into what more we can do, and next week we will meet with the Ukrainian foreign minister. He will come here to NATO and we will discuss many issues, including the security situation in the Black Sea region, and NATO has increased our presence in the Black Sea region.
4 years after the annexation of Crimea, the start of military activity in eastern Ukraine, that combination of economic sanctions and military support has not changed Russian behavior. It still occupies Crimea, it still occupies eastern Ukraine, and now it has this latest military aggression. Is that evidence that the West's policy in response to Russia is not working?
I think it shows how serious and difficult this situation is, because we provide strong support to Ukraine. We have adapted our military posture in the Black Sea region with more air policing, with more naval presence, with more troops on the ground. At the same time, we all want to avoid a full military confrontation. And therefore, we continue to work for a political, negotiated solution. That's never easy, and sometimes it takes time, but the alternative, full military conflict, is something we absolutely must avoid. And that's also the reason why NATO continue to call on or ask for calm and restraint, and to continue to work for a political solution. And that's something we also then address in our political dialogue with Russia. We have something called the NATO-Russia Council, and the situation in and around Ukraine, including the Azov Sea, has been the main topic in this political dialogue with Russia for a long time.
This latest encounter is an escalation. Shots fired at sea, sailors now seized by Russia. Now you have Ukraine, the president discussing the imposition of martial law. How concerned are you that this current level of tensions escalates into something more out of control?
It is important now to show restraint and help to de-escalate the situation. And the best way to do that is for Russia to release the sailors, the Navy personnel they have captured. Some of them are actually also wounded, according to reports. So that's the most immediate thing that must happen, the release of these arrested sailors. Then there is something called the Minsk agreements, which is a framework for how we can have a political solution. And we need to continue to push for the full implementation of the Minsk agreements at the same time as, or combined with, strong support to Ukraine, including helping them to strengthen their armed forces. They are on the front line meeting the Russia-supported separatists in eastern Ukraine, and we need to help them to confront and to stem the pressure from the insurgents in Donbas or eastern Ukraine.
Forgive my skepticism if I can, but just for our broader audience here, will Russia's occupation of Crimea ever end?
We will never accept it. I cannot tell you when that will end, but I remember when the Soviet Union illegally annexed and occupied the Baltic states. That was actually 40 years, or even more. But at the end, the Baltic states became independent, sovereign states. We never recognized what the Soviet Union did to the Baltic states, but of course we also were able to act in a way that prevented a full-scale war. Crimea is very different from the Baltic state, but the dilemma is the same, that we don't accept illegal, aggressive actions of a big power. At the same time, we need to act in a way which prevent a difficult and a painful situation to develop into something which can be even more dangerous and escalate to a full military conflict.
Oh.
See, the focus there is this delicate balancing act. Yes, they want to challenge Russia, not accept these, but there's a limit as to how far they're willing to go. They don't want it to develop into a broader war.
Right. That was fascinating. He rarely talks. An exclusive interview with him, and that key question of, so, what happens? Does Russia just stay there? And what happens to these sailors?
Yeah. And, well, one of them has now been charged with a crime for apparently driving a Ukrainian boat to a Ukrainian port in
Ukrainian
international
waters.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.